thank you, Donald. It's October the 31st, the day we were told over and over again we would be leaving the European Union, and we're not. So I was a bit disappointed by that and thought we'd debate that this evening. But I was cheered up because I got a very important phone call from someone. Well, let's call him Donald from Washington, shall we? And I started off by asking him whether he, as a Brexit supporter, was disappointed that the UK had not left the European Union.
Well, I think Boris is, and I am, and you are. We're all disappointed. I think it's a good thing for the UK, the concept of what they're doing. I was in favor of it originally. Remember, I was out opening up Turnberry at the time, and we had a massive amount of press, more than you would normally have for opening a club. And I said that it was going to pass, and everybody laughed, and I was right, and you were right.
Yeah.
But it did. But it's been a long time since that day and the day of reckoning.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very difficult for Boris in one sense that he inherited a difficult position from Mrs. May, and you said,
yes, he did.
And you said to me that he would bring some energy to the job, and well, I think compared to his predecessor, he's brought a lot of energy. But he also picked up this deal that Mrs. May had tried to do, which was in fact a new EU treaty, and Boris has picked up that treaty and tried to improve it. I mean, has he spoken to you about the details of this deal?
Yes, he has, and he also knows how difficult it is. He's in a very difficult position, and I think he's willing to do what nobody else would do. I also think he's looking very much at the United States because we can do much more in trade. You know, we're much bigger than we were when I took office. We've grown a tremendous amount, and China's gone in the opposite direction, as you know. We've gained trillions of dollars in value and worth, and they've lost trillions of dollars. So we're far and away the largest economy in the world, and we want to do trade with UK, and they want to do trade with us. And to be honest with you, this deal, under certain aspects of the deal, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't trade. Well, I mean, we can't make a trade deal with the UK, and we can be... Because I think we can do many times the numbers that we're doing right now, and certainly much bigger numbers that you're doing under the European Union.
Well, so I'm like you. I know
Boris wants to be very careful with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
Because under certain ways we're precluded,
which
would
problem.
Be ridiculous.
Yeah,
frankly.
That's the problem with this deal, is that, in fact, the next stage of our agonising negotiations with Brussels will not end until the end of 2022. They want to align us in regulatory terms. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, we've got a general election coming up. Is this the moment that Boris should just drop this deal and go for a clean break so we can start having serious conversations with you?
Well, I don't want to tell Boris or you, because you've had a great impact on this, Nigel. You and I have become friends over the last couple of years, and you saw what was happening with my thing, just like you saw what was happening over there. You're like a great tea leaf reader. And I'd like to see you and Boris get together, because you would really have some numbers, because you did fantastically in the last election. And
absolutely.
He respects you a lot. I can tell you that. He respects you a lot. I don't know if you know that or not, but because I have no idea. You know, I have enough to do over here without having to worry about the psychology of two brilliant people over there, frankly.
Well, if he drops the deal...
He has a lot of respect and like for you. I wish you two guys could get together. I think it would be a great thing.
I tell you what, if he drops this dreadful deal, fights the general election on the basis that we want to just have trade with Europe but no political interference, do you know what? I'd be right behind him, and let's hope he gets to that position. Now against him, of course, the main rival is one Jeremy Corbyn, who I know didn't come along to see you at the state dinner when you were here. Now, Mr. Corbyn says...
Well, he wasn't invited. I certainly didn't know he was invited. I mean, look, I don't know him. I'm sure he's a lovely man, but, he's of different persuasion, to put it mildly.
Well,
perhaps
he is
the opposite. He's at the opposite end.
He says if we have a trade deal, Donald Trump, it'll be a Trump Brexit, and Trump will come and take over our National Health Service. What do you have to say to him?
No, not at all. We wouldn't even be involved in that. No, we're trying to fix our health service. We all have our health service problems, and frankly, and you do over there, and we do. And one of the things that we're running so successfully on is how great a job I've done on healthcare. We've done a fantastic job. No, it's not for us to have anything to do with your healthcare system. No, we're just talking about trade. your trade with us could be 4 to 5 times higher than it is right now. That would make your country much bigger economically than it is right now, and you're being held back by the European Union. So are other countries within the European Union. I mean, you have countries, Italy and others, that would do much better, frankly, without the European Union. But if they want to have a union, that's fine. But I think it's hurt your country. I also know for a fact, I mean, they're very tough people to deal with. I will tell you this. I told that to Boris. I said they're very, very difficult to deal with. And I have a magic wand. I could deal with it very easily. All I have to do is a certain step, and they'll be coming and dealing with me very easily. I always thought you had a little bit of a magic wand, too, but they never used it. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. No, I do, and I'd love to have helped, but at the moment they've chosen not to use me in any of these negotiations. So we've got nothing to fear then. If we do a trade deal with the USA, the NHS is not up for grabs, is what you're saying. And the other line I get is,
I don't even know where that started. I don't even know where your healthcare system started with respect to us taking over your healthcare system. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I think Corbyn put that out there. But to even think, it was never even mentioned. I never even heard it until I went over to visit with the Queen, who, by the way, is a great, great woman. And I think we hit it off really well. We had a terrific time, but she's a great woman.
She's amazing. She's
I say that very seldom. I don't say that often, I have to say, about anybody, but she is really very outstanding. And Prince Charles, so good, so good. He loves the environment. He loves your country so much. We had a great time. We'll get together. But
she got
really special people.
Somehow the Queen got a bit dragged into this Brexit row because our Supreme Court judged that basically the advice that Boris had given her was against the law. It's a bit of a shame that when she gets dragged in like this, isn't it?
Well, one thing I've learned about her, because I've watched her, people study her, and in as many years, it has to be the all-time record. I don't think she's ever been in anything that was bad. I mean, honestly, think of it. She's gone through everything, from wars to anything you could go through, and she's always handled it incredibly well. She's an incredible woman, actually.
No, I agree with that completely. And, of course, an American married into the royal family last year, young Harry married Meghan Markle, and kind of a year into this, she's having a really tough time, and she's kind of saying the press are being really unfair to her. Now, I think you've probably personally had more tough press and perhaps unfair press than anybody else alive. Do you feel a bit sorry for young Meghan, given what the press are saying about her?
Well, I've been watching her interviews, and I've seen it, and she's taken it very personally. I guess you have to be a little bit different than that, but she takes it very, very personally, and I can understand it. But I don't know her. I will say I met Harry. He's great. I met him when I was over at that incredible... We had something that was so incredible recently. That was, 5 months ago now, how time flies. But I got to meet Harry, and he is really a fine young man. The whole family is. I think the whole family is terrific. It's a great family.
So you really enjoyed that visit to the UK in June?
No, I really did. And, I met the Queen as the second time. And the first time, everything is so perfect, and we got along so well. And I was supposed to be there for 16.3 minutes. I kid when I say that, but like 15 or 16 minutes. Everything was so precise, and I was there for more than an hour. And I came out, and the reason I was there is because we both had a great time, and she wanted me to stay, and I wanted to stay, and the First Lady was with us, and we had a great conversation, probably for an hour or thereabouts. And I came in, and the press said, he was there. He was extremely rude to the Queen. Well, no, I would have been rude if I left. I would have said, I have to leave now. No, we had a fantastic time. We hit it off, and then actually people commented on it, because in that great gala that we had, we sat next to each other, and she was smiling and having a good time, and I was smiling and having a good time, and it was just, really an incredible evening. But I was told that she enjoyed it, and I can tell you I enjoyed it.
And you're supposed to come back, I think, in December, because there's going to be a big NATO summit here in
That's
December.
Right. I'll be back in December.
And there's some big conversations going on at the moment. The European Union very, very keen to build their own defence capabilities, whilst at the same time, I think you would say, not paying their way in NATO.
Well, they're not. I mean, they're the European Union is not. Now, UK is. We are current. We're current. We're more than current. We're paying twice as much as we should be, and we're supposed to. We're really paying a big percentage of the total cost to the United States, which has been taken advantage of. But the UK is current. The European Union, if you look at many of those countries, it's very similar in makeup. There are right now in NATO 20 countries that are delinquent, meaning they owe a lot of money. Germany is the number one. They're down from 1 to 1.2 or 3% instead of 2%, and 2% is a very low number. They're supposed to be at 2%, which is a very low number. The United States is at 4%, and try and figure that one out. That we're more, and we're there to protect you. So, and you have a lot of things like Germany paying a lot of money to Russia for the pipeline and for energy. A tremendous amount of their energy will be coming from Russia. And that's all fine, but then we're supposed to protect them from Russia. So, how does that work? So there's a lot of difficulty with that whole situation, and we'll see how it works out. I hope it works out. But I look forward to seeing everybody. Great relationships with the various nations.
And is there a point at which America has to say, look, we just can't go on doing this unless everybody plays by the same rules?
Well, I won't even say that. I'll just say that I raised your Secretary General, who's a terrific guy, Stoltenberg. He said that nobody's done so much for NATO as I have. I raised $100 billion last year, more money than they got, just by saying, I'm sorry, you have to pay up. Now, that's, believe it or not, as much as that is, that's a fraction of what the real number is. That's, even with that, they're not current. And many of these countries, like Germany, could be current in one day. They could pay up in one day. So they're taking advantage of the United States. But we'll see how that all works out. It always works out. Everything works out.
And do you see the relationship with Boris Johnson? Because I think you had some reservations about Theresa May as Prime Minister, didn't you?
Well, I liked her very much. I disagreed with certain things that she did. But I like her. She was always very nice to me. I was nice to her. But she and we really got along very well at the end. But I did not agree with her on certain things.
No, and with Boris, I mean, I know you tried to advise her, didn't you, on how she should negotiate with the EU, because you've negotiated with these guys.
I told her exactly how to make the deal.
Yeah,
but she didn't listen to me, and that's okay. Not everybody listens to me. Some people do.
Well, will Boris listen to you?
She could have made a great deal.
Will Boris listen to you?
She could have made a great deal. Boris and I have a great friendship. We've become friends. Boris and I, when he was running, they were saying, he's the Trump. We have a lot of the same things going, I guess. Boris is a terrific guy. He really is. You know that. He's a terrific guy.
He brings energy.
I think you need it. I think it was time for Boris. It was time. You needed him.
Well, I tell you what,
I think you really did.
If you can persuade him to go for a clean break, I would be over the moon, because we, as you say, together we'd win. Now, I must talk about some events in America. Let's start with a success to begin with. The killing of the ISIS leader, al-Baghdadi. How significant is that in terms of the war on terror?
Well, it's been amazing. I mean, he was the head of ISIS. He built a caliphate that was massive, the size of Ohio in terms of land. It's a very big, between Iraq and Syria. He had literally a piece of land. They equate it to the size of the state of Ohio, and he had 7 million people. And when you see those orange suits where the heads were cut off, that was him. When you see the Jordanian pilot who they captured and they burned him in a cage, that was him. He's an animal. And he died a coward, and he died a very rough death, I can tell you. These people we have, our soldiers, our military, is by far the greatest in the world. There's nothing close. And they went in, and he didn't know what hit him. He didn't know. He was very well protected, and they broke through like they were dealing with children, frankly. They broke through so easily. And he was very well protected. He didn't expect this to happen, but tremendous protection. And he died whimpering and crying, and what he did to people what he did to a young, very beautiful young lady that was there. Her parents were just devastated. I called them all. I called many people, many of the parents and families I called of people that he killed. But he was a bad guy, and he was bad for your country. That was a world favor, not just a U.S. favor.
The trouble is, though, he's gone, and I agree with you. I'm very pleased about that. But there are still thousands of people who fought for ISIS in prison camps.
Yeah.
Now, what are we going to do?
We also killed his second. We also killed his second the following day. We found him.
But what do we do?
Out too, so.
What do we do with these thousands of fighters? Where are they going to go?
Well, we offered to give the ones from UK back to UK, and they don't want them. We offered France. We offered Germany. Well, this is what I mean. We captured them.
Yep.
We've got them. The Beatles we have, the Beatles.
Yep.
We have two of the Beatles. They were the worst. And they came from your territory, and you guys, possibly incredibly smart, but, maybe not. You didn't want to take them back. So, as usual, the United States gets stuck with it, and we're handling it in a certain way. So we're watching it very carefully.
Can we expect you to send them back to us?
Well, we would. If you take them, you guys, you don't want them back. Nobody wants them, They'll say, hey, let the United States take care of them. They take care of everything else. Let them take care, which isn't fair. We offered France, Macron. We offered Angela, Germany. Many of these people came from Germany, France, UK. And they all were so happy when we captured them. I said, good, now you can take them back and try them. And I think they maybe didn't hear the statement. They didn't want to hear it.
Well, that could be a problem that Boris has to. Boris may have to deal with that problem if he gets re-elected in this campaign. And the other big issue that made huge news was, of course, the horrible road death that we saw, of course, back in the summer of this year, young Harry Dunn. And I know that you tried to horrible, and you tried to broker a meeting, didn't you, in the White House between?
Well, I had a meeting set up, but all of a sudden, I guess lawyers got involved. But I had a meeting set up. They were both in the White House. I met with the parents of the young boy, very nice people. And I had watched them. And the reason I did this is for Boris, actually. Boris called. He said, would it be possible for you to do something?
Okay.
I met with the young lady that was driving the car, and she had a very compelling story to tell. And then they were in separate rooms. And when I wanted to introduce them to each other so they could really grieve together, the parents didn't want to meet her. So, and yet, when I watched them being interviewed in UK, they very much wanted to meet her. So I don't know what went. I guess things happen, things change. But
that was disappointing.
She was in the next room.
That was disappointing.
She was in the next room.
Yeah, no, I know she was.
She was willing to meet.
I know she wasn't. Today, the British police have actually interviewed her about the incident. I mean, are there circumstances? Are there circumstances here, if Boris asked, where she could come back to the UK to face charges?
Well, I'd have to see what the final facts are, and I'll take a look at the final facts.
Okay.
She's represented by a lawyer. As you know, the parents are represented by a lawyer, and from the time I talked to Boris to the time I met with them, but they were both right next to each other in the White House. I was in the Oval Office with the parents, and the young lady was in a room right next to the Oval Office, but the parents decided, in their wisdom, and it's certainly their choice, not to see her.
Yes.
I can understand that, too.
Yes. No.
I can understand
And, of course, we have to talk about, and I'm sure it's the last subject you want to talk about, but the Ukraine and this vote this preliminary vote that has passed in the House this afternoon. I mean, they say, the other side, that you used your position to ask the Ukrainian government to look into the Biden family background, and in doing that, you'd asked effectively for foreign interference in a national election.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's totally false. We have a transcript. There was an exact transcript of the meeting, and anybody that reads the transcripts understands it was a perfect phone call with the Ukrainian president, who's a very fine man, a very nice person, and we had a great call, and it was a very appropriate call. Many people were on the call. I knew many people were on the call. Not to mention, I'm sure they had many people on the call. But there were many people on the call, and it was a very, very appropriate call. And in fact, when it came up, sometime after the call was made, when it came up, I said, "Oh, well, that's okay. There's nothing there." Having a good memory, and then you could see the Democrats are desperate. They're desperate. They have nothing. They've got nothing going. We really call them the do-nothing Democrats, and it's really sticking because they're doing nothing. And it's the only way they're going to try and win the election this way because they can't win it the fair way. No, the transcript of the call that I had with the Ukrainian president is a perfect and totally appropriate document. And they're using that to try and impeach the president of the United States, who won one of the greatest elections in history. You know that. You've told me that yourself.
Yes.
And a very important election because there's nobody that's done what I've done in the first 2.5 years, cutting taxes, cutting regulations. We rebuilt our military to a level that it's never been. It's never been at a level like this. All beautiful, new, the best fighters in the world, the best fighter jets and rockets and missiles, and hopefully we never have to use it. But we have a military the likes of which we never had before, the strongest in the world, done so much. And the Democrats are doing terribly, and the do-nothing Democrats are the only thing they can do is this. In fact, they just had a vote on a procedure. I guess it's procedural votes. They gave us absolutely no rights because they have the majority only in the House. And I didn't have one negative Republican vote, which is a very unusual thing.
But you've been through...
Not one negative Republican vote.
You've been through Mueller. They're trying to put you... You say you've been through Mueller, which went on and on and on. They're trying to go through impeachment.
That lasted for 2 years.
I know.
But it actually started... The whole thing started long before I won the election. It started with the insurance policy, where you had two lovers, the FBI agents, that were after Trump. And this was long before the election took place. And they said that Hillary Clinton's going to win, but just in case she doesn't win, we'll have an insurance policy. And all of this stuff is the insurance policy. But we're winning. We have a great Republican Party. I'm the highest-rated person in the history of the Republican Party. It came out the other day, 95%. I have a 95% approval rating of the Republican Party. With the Senate, equally strong. But the House just had a vote. I don't know what the final was, 195 Republicans or something like that. I didn't lose any.
Yeah, it was 232 versus 196, and in fact, even two Democrats were on your side of it.
Yes, that's right, which is, really something. And I think what it means and what a lot of people are saying, because it's a hoax, and, high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, what's a high crime and misdemeanor when you have a very appropriate conversation? Now, fortunately, we have the transcript because, they're bringing never-Trumpers out, people. Now, and you know this stuff better. I knew many people were on the call. I knew it was probably being transcribed or stenographers, doing that. I knew all these things. I know when I speak to a foreign leader, people are on the call, and they do that, and they transcribe the call. So what happened is, if you know that, if I know, Boris, now I'm a straight shooter anyway, so it doesn't have to be, but when you have 25 people or 10 people or 5 people or maybe more than 25, when you know the line is crowded with people listening, intelligence agencies, military people, they're all listening. Would I say something inappropriate? I'm supposed to be they even say a very smart person, right? I don't think I'd be doing that. Also, would I use Ukraine to beat Sleepy Joe Biden? Sleepy Joe, I call him 1% Joe, too. 1%. The guy never came out of these things with 1%, and he's heading down rapidly now. I mean, I don't view him as a very difficult guy to beat. I think it's unlikely that he would have gotten it, but now it seems to be less and less likely that he would have gotten it.
Who is the fight? Who is the fight going to be against for November 2020? Who is going to come and take you on?
It would look like Elizabeth Warren is picking up steam. She's picking up a little steam. I thought she was gonzo. I call her Pocahontas because she lied about her Indian heritage. But she seems to be the one picking up steam. So it could be her. It could be Bernie Sanders, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Bernie looks like he's shot. But it could be one of them. But I know one person that's going to say Trump is going to win. That's Nigel, because you said that
I did.
when it was less fashionable, so I can't imagine you're going to be changing it too. In the meantime, we've had a great economy and everything else.
No, I did. You're absolutely right, and absolutely, and I'm pleased I did. But tell me something. I came to see you. I came to see you just 3 days after the election result, and it was and it was an astonishing victory. And I just wonder, here we are, nearly 3 years in office have gone by. And you've got all this stuff going on. You've got elements of the US media who are kind of on your case on a regular basis. The big question I'm going to end with, are you enjoying it?
Yes, because I'm doing more than anyone ever thought possible, even me. They say promises made, promises kept. I'm doing more than I even promised I was going to do. I'm getting things done at a level that nobody ever thought possible. I'm being held up by the Democrats. Frankly, they're trying to put roadblocks. Part of this is exactly what's happening here. And don't forget, there's another big investigation going on. And that's the real deal. That's investigate the investigators. And that's going to come out. The IG report is coming out very soon against these people. And I think it's going to be, we're going to learn a lot. But just so you know, I love doing it. I had a great life before, including going to Turnberry and going to Aberdeen and
playing
going
golf
to Doonbeg, in Ireland,
and
going
being
to
free,
a lot of different places there,
being free and living your own life, and that's all gone, isn't it?
I'll never have that again.
No, you won't.
I'll never have that again.
And what comes?
I had the day before I announced, Nigel, it was literally I was the most successful. I had probably the best part of my life ever, and then I announced and. Look, it's a much different life. It's tougher, but it's something, you're the president of the United States. I have great relationships with many of the leaders, including Boris. He's a fantastic man, and I think he's the exact right guy for the times. And I know that you and him will end up doing something that could be terrific. If you and he get together, it's, unstoppable force. And Corbyn would be so bad for your country. He'd be so bad. He'd take you in such a bad way. He'd take you into such bad places. But your country has tremendous potential. It's a great country. Don't forget, my mother was born in Stornoway, right?
Yeah.
So that's big. That's called the real deal Scotland. Okay, that's not on the fringes, right? That's called. She was from Scotland, and she was proud of it. She'd go back every year. She loved it. So we have some great things, and I love what I'm doing.
And tell me, what'll happen first? Brexit or Donald Trump's re-election? That's a tough one.
Well, I think Brexit will happen first, because we don't have till, we're November 3rd of next year, so that's in a year. Hard to believe. It's 1 year, that's all, You for those first couple of days you say it'll never happen, but all of a sudden time goes by. No, I think Brexit will happen first. I hope so, because otherwise Brexit's going to be, you should be able to knock that off. I think they're going to get that done. People are tired of hearing about it. We're even tired of hearing about it over here. I think you'll get that done.
Thank you very much indeed.
You have the right man. You have the right man doing it, and you have the right combination of people that want to see something good happen, and that includes you.
That was Donald Trump, and